Alrighty folks, welcome to a Weekends with Yam episode. I have Spite with me here today because we are going to be talking about motorcycle trends and predictions for the next 10 years because we think the Scrambler is finally dead. I think they're officially in the cafe racer territory from the early 2000s, late 2000s, where it's kind of like, you know, everyone's doing cafe racer builds, and it kind of, you know, went out of style. Scramblers, I think, are about to come and go. What do you think?
Yeah, and I'm not sure whether or not we're ready to dance on their grave or whether or not we're kind of sad, because there are actually some great Scramblers out there.
Yes.
The Triumph Scrambler like XE and XC, excellent, like almost better than some adventure bikes almost.
Yeah.
But there were so many Scramblers. I mean, Ducati has like 12, Triumph has a whole bunch.
Yep.
Yamaha had that weird XR or
SCR
900.
Yeah.
So many Scramblers came and went.
Yep.
And I feel like the only ones left are the ones that really won the
Yes.
Scrambler game, those being Ducati and Triumph.
Yeah. I think people also in the customized scene made a lot of them. I mean, we even made our own Scrambler, right, in the Gixxer 250.
It's the best Scrambler ever.
That's the best Scrambler. But we are trying to figure out if in the next 10 years, what's going to kind of replace it or where things are going. So you guys stick around. Today is going to be a good one. All right, Spite, if we think about the current motorcycle landscape, you had an interesting point before we started filming about how quarantine has kind of changed people a little bit. People are searching more adventure. ADV sales are through the roof. What do you kind of see it going? What do you think?
So there's a couple of ways it could go, I think. So we have seen an explosion of ADV bikes since quarantine, and I think that's people desperate to get out, want to get out on two wheels, experience the world again. They've really gotten wanderlust from watching folks like Itchy Boots or whatever, where she's going across the world on whatever bike she's on now. They've seen all that content and they see it as really aspirational. I mean, even I do. I find myself watching those Common Tread experiences where they go and do stuff, like the one where they took the little baby CTs to the tip of Alaska.
Yeah.
Or the
That's why you're getting the new bike you're getting.
That's why I'm getting the new bike I'm getting.
We can't talk about it yet, but yeah. We both have new bikes, but we can't talk about it yet.
Yeah, we got a video coming out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there's been this massive desire to get out and see the world from the saddle. And there's two ways that can go. The really expensive route being the flagship ADVs. And those are real expensive. Like, I think if you want to get into a proper flagship bike, you're looking at least $20,000.
Easily. Easily.
And then you have the...
That's before your custom Aero Stitch suit.
Oh, yeah, and you have to have one with your nice bright Schubert C4 helmet.
Exactly.
Flip-up visor and your cup holder.
Yep.
But there's the other option, which is the lightweight dual sport or the lightweight small adventure bike. We have the middle range adventure bike, which again has exploded with the Tenere, Tiger. What else do we have in there? Just there's Aprilia's new entry. Yeah. You can literally lose yourself in how many
Desert
of those
X,
bikes there are.
Kind of. You know?
Yeah, the Norden 901.
Yeah.
Those bikes sort of cut the middle, but they're still pretty expensive for people who are wanting to get out and adventure for the first time.
Yeah, I think where a manufacturer will win is if they completely stray away from the formula and make something entry-level cheap that can do those things.
Yes.
Right? I'm thinking about something like the, what is that, Benelli TRK?
Yes,
right?
TRX.
TRX, yeah. Where, you know, it should be budget price. It's like a 500cc parallel twin. The MV Agusta one as well. I mean, it's MV Agusta, so it's probably a little bit more expensive, but I think the winners will probably be stuff that is decently off-road capable, but can be ridden long roads and many long distances. Royal Enfield Himalayan, right?
Absolutely.
Kind of the donkeys of the world. I really think that's where people are going. I think people are starting to realize that kind of had the formula right many, many years ago. The dual sports were kind of king for a reason. And we're seeing CRF 300L, KLX 300, Triumph's making dirt bikes, so maybe that's where things are going.
I also wouldn't panic though. I don't think like sport bikes are going away. I think what we're seeing is
changing.
This sort of change from, because if you think about it, cafe racers were taking, you know, a basically like a standard naked bike and turning it into something that it wasn't supposed to be. And Scramblers were trying to chase that a little bit as well. They were taking these naked standard bikes and turning them into off-road capable motorcycles. And I think what we've seen with the cafe racers is it's better to just get a sport bike.
Yeah.
And with Scramblers, it's better to just get a dual sport.
Yep.
Because they're lighter, they're more capable. The only thing that a Scrambler has that something like this doesn't is it's got the long legs.
So I was gonna say style and like beauty. Because
Style
that's
and
the
beauty,
one thing,
yeah.
whoever can make a good-looking dual sport will win. You'll win big. Make one with a nice round headlight, LEDs, make it all cool. Triumph could do it. Maybe Triumph will, I don't know. But, yeah. I
mean, these are, unfortunately, they're utilitarian motorcycles, which is a soft way to put, but ugly.
Yeah.
Even adventure bikes. They're pretty ugly motorcycles, even though the likes of BMW and Harley Davidson and Ducati have really tried to make them look pleasant.
Yeah.
And to us who appreciate off-road riding, they are kind of cool.
Yeah.
But we still are like, God damn, those are ugly.
I think like the Tenere 700 Rally Edition, the Rally Raid bike they're making, it's just so purposeful and angry, and you can appreciate it from that perspective. But it is very kind of hyper masculine, angular, aggressive look. You know, it doesn't have the soft, beautiful lines of a Scrambler. Right?
Like you put it next to a Scrambler and that Rally Raid outside, and some normie walks by, they're gonna be like, what is this big ugly dirt bike?
Yeah.
I want that one, the cool one. And so I think it's gonna take a little bit for us to lose Scramblers because of that kind of beauty aspect to them.
But I find it interesting too, because it seems like we keep harkening back to the 60s for this beautiful retro look. But I really think that something like the Desert X is starting to break the mold of like, we're now to the point where the 80s are so retro that they're gonna start looking cool again too for a lot of people. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 10 years, we see more 80s retro, neo-retro throwbacks, kind of like the Desert X, where they have those weird old lines from those bikes, but just updated in a much more refreshing way. And they look really cool. I think the Desert X is one of the coolest looking bikes for 2022.
It's such an, like, kind of a banana-shaped aesthetic about it. And yeah, it is that harkening back to those old Dakar bikes. But again, that's a taste where people who are big into the adventure scene are really gonna love it, but I'm not sure if it's gonna sell to a wider audience, you know?
I don't know. It would be interesting to grab like a sample group of normies and show them the Desert X. Be like, do you think this looks cool? Like, what do you think? You know, because I think it's a really striking looking bike, but we're too lost in the sauce of motorcyclists. You know, like we had that reality check when people thought a Royal Enfield was $25,000 on the streets of Austin. We're like, wow, we don't know anything. Like we do not have our finger on the pulse for normies. We don't know at all. Jeez. But you know, you think about also new emerging technologies. You know, we have something we're talking about today on the Yamcast about hybrid bikes, electric bikes. Do you see new emerging technologies for the next 10 years as a sort of trend?
So I think that we are going to see a push, especially the big one that I think is really going to catch on is Yamaha, KTM, Peugeot, or Piaggio rather.
Batteries.
The swappable electric batteries. I think that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
As far as new engine technology, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Because we've basically, this is a mousetrap.
Yeah.
It is a solved problem. The only thing that you're trying to see now is making them clean. So you're going to see bikes like the DRZ die. You're going to see bikes like that XR 660 or 650.
Instead of bold new graphics, it'll be a bold new grave for the DRC.
Which if you ask me, it's had one foot in that grave for a while.
It really has.
But I think that we are going to see all of those old school bikes that people really, like they have this affinity towards, and you see the carb diehards in the comments every now and again. Those are going to go away.
Yeah.
Because eventually they're just going to be too strict.
It's the kind of holy trinity. There's the people who feel it's like carburetor, two-stroke, and single cylinder and kickstart. It's kind of like they're like, that's like the best formula because like I can do anything to my bike. There's no computer anywhere type of thing, you know.
Those are the people who are like, this is going to be my apocalypse bike. Yeah. I have my bunker already set up.
I mean, I get it, you know, but most of us don't want to deal with that, you know. But to your point though, we were talking about adventure bikes. Beyond just adventure and dual sport, we've seen the off-road market just explode. Like, you can't go to a dealership and buy a little kiddo pit bike.
Nope.
They're just
gone.
Selling like that, gone. All the hardcore enduro bikes too, just selling like hotcakes. I don't even know what hotcakes are, but apparently they sell very, very well. So I think that's another big market too. People are realizing, especially as emissions clamp down and these street bikes get so corked up, maybe it's better to just run off-road with the bike that is allowed to be a little less corked up, you know? And you don't have traffic and people are always so distracted, you know? Like, I'm getting to the point where I don't want to ride on the street very much nowadays.
No, it sucks.
Yeah.
And we have been trying to tell you guys this for a long time, that you're eventually just going to get bored of street riding. And that's where you either take it to the track or you go off-road.
Or both.
Or both. And it's just so much cheaper to get into off-road riding.
It is.
It's
motocross,
much cheaper.
A motocross day is 25 bucks. You rock up. They don't even check like your gear, your bike or anything. They're just like, you got 25 bucks, sign the waiver, sign your life away, go kill yourself.
Go have fun.
Yeah, it's way more lax than a track day. And it's basically just dirt track day, but with jumps, which makes it a lot of fun, you know? So that's kind of where I see things going. But yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe this is my kind of cynicism talking, but I just really hope that we stop glorifying the 60s and stuff so much, you know? Like, I was talking to a guy from Triumph at the AIM Expo in Las Vegas a while back, and I won't give any names, but he was saying, like, you know, the Triumph marketing team is still trying the whole, like, you know, Steve, oh, look, it's Steve McQueen and this and that. And he's like, guys, if you ask a young person, they don't even know who that is. You know what I mean? Like, you have to start, like I said, benchmarking a little bit more forward in the future than the 60s. Because eventually, it's going to be like 2060 and people will be like, the 60s Scramblers. Like, that was 100 years ago. Move on. You know, like, move on. Let's try something else. And I really think that the neo-retro 60s revival has had its day in the sun. I'm kind of bored of it, personally.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool for a while, but now when everybody had a round ahead, like, you know, silver bars, all of that stuff was just on every motorcycle. I was like, okay, neat, give me something else. Because you do always want to see some step forward. And that's where we saw technology get added to these Scramblers.
Yeah.
You know, they actually made them with off-road modes and stuff, so you didn't have to play on hard mode.
Yeah.
But technology, again, sends it towards high-powered adventure bike, where it becomes too expensive for it to catch on mass.
That's true, yeah. I think of something like the Svartpillen line from Husqvarna. It has a kind of like neo-retro flavor to it, but it's way more in the neo camp. You know what I mean? It's 80% neo, 20% retro, because it has the single round headlight, which is a classic motorcycle feature, but it's new enough looking and exciting enough looking to where people will see it. And like, I mean, how many times did Whitney have her Svartpillen parked in the front of the shop and guys just come out and just kind of gawk at it, you know, like for like good 20 minutes, take photos of it. Like, there is something to be said about a new design aesthetic that is equally as impressive as the retro stuff, you know?
What do you think about this as sort of the dual sport reimagining? Because you see you see bikes like the Svart and the Vit, which have that, they're almost at home on the Blade Runner set.
Yeah.
If somebody could combine that into a bike like this,
I've been saying it for years.
I think we'd really have a cool dual sport, and then people would get over the ugly factor.
Yeah, they'd get over like the dumb dirt bike dorky thing or whatever they think, you know? Yeah, imagine a Svartpillen, but just like a little leaner, taller dirt bikey.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then you get it with the crazy aggressive KTM price point that they have the Svart at. Done. That's a perfect motorcycle.
It reminds me of if you could get this same aesthetic distilled into a motorcycle. I don't know if you remember, I showed you that off-road Singer 911 Porsche. It was like all jacked up with the big wheels, and it was like all red and white and like with the crazy tech and stuff. Do that but for a dual sport. Very cool.
I mean, that's almost like the Desert X.
It is, yeah.
So
I just want not 480 pounds. I want like 300 tops. Another big development, you can't overlook it, is the rise of the e-bike. It's happening all around you everywhere, whether you like it or not. Cyclists and motorcyclists don't like them, but a lot of people are into e-bikes. There's e-mountain bikes, there's e-road bikes, and you know, you had a great point about how they're easy to store in your apartment, they're clean, there's no fluids. Honestly, there's a big market for them, I think.
And the nice thing about it is they don't, so depending on the way you go, you don't need to plate it, you don't need to register it, you don't need to insure it, you just park it in your apartment. You know? And if you've got one with the pedals, then if you run out of batteries, you're good. What you can't have is like the cake the cock end or whatever we rode.
Yeah.
$14,000?
Yeah.
That's absurd. And literally the point of those motorcycles, or I guess electric bikes, is to get somebody on two wheels in a cost-effective way.
Yeah.
Right? So if dual sports, being as cheap as they are, just aren't doing it for you, you can't store this in your like New York apartment or whatever, then the e-bike makes a lot of sense. So I think we're going to see, and we've even seen for a while before Harley spun Livewire into its own company, they had an electric bicycle that they were working on. I think it was called the One or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was a bicycle stamped with the Harley frame, so of course it was going to be a little expensive, but it was a way for people to actually have a method of transportation that actually gets them up to a reasonable speed.
Yeah. I mean, you look at stuff like the Suron, right? You look at other stuff, I can't remember the name of it, but there's e-mountain bikes with pedals. Like, I think people are still trying to figure out, like, is it gonna be the pedal assistant ones? Is it not gonna be the pedal assistant ones that people like? And the segments are getting so like laser focused. You know, it's like, oh, if you want a road bike to ride around from work and school, like get this e-road bike. But if you want to go off-road, you can get this one. If you want one that's like somewhere between an enduro bike and a mountain bike, get this one. Like they're so specific nowadays. We're seeing that with all motorcycling.
Oh yeah.
You get these laser tight segments. KTM has like 12 different Dukes, right?
And I think we're actually going to see those get wide again. We're going to see them get wide really fast. Where KTM with the Dukes, they realize we don't need a 790, an 890, and the eventual 990. We don't need that. Let's just split the difference, focus all on the 890.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we have an 890, 890R, and 890 double R.
Aren't they making a 990 though?
It's, they have the, I'm pretty sure they have those patents filed already. I think we talked about it on a Yamcast not too long ago.
I think we did.
And I think we are going to realize at a certain point that all of these crazy different models, you're offering it to such a niche group, each particular one.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't really work that way.
I guess it works if you're banking on the fact that the average motorcyclist is a pretty big enthusiast of N+1. But from all the folks I talked to on our Discord, there's a handful of folks who have 3 or 4 bikes. Most of them have 1 bike. Most people are a 1 bike kind of household, which is why the humble sport touring bike is coming big into the fold, you know? I think the sport touring bike, for a lot of people, is making sense because it can do so many different things.
And then if they can't afford 2 motorcycles, they have their sport touring motorcycle, which gets them up to highway speed, then they have their e-bike to pedal around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then you're good to go.
I think one final thing in terms of just like trends that I think could happen as well, and this is something I wanted to talk about at the beginning, but I forgot. I think the rise of the Club Dyna is definitely a trend to watch. Harley-Davidson's leaning into it, right?
I mean, it's always been there. Ever since the...
well, Scramblers have too. I think it's just becoming that kind of like everyone is now aware of it type of thing, you know?
Yeah, so I think it really caught on with the Lowrider S.
Yeah.
When Harley ripped off the bike from Sons of Anarchy, that's really when it exploded. And now you have all these Club Dyna guys out there, and even the Sportster guys who are like,
I'll make this a Club Dyna too.
I need to cosplay as a Club Dyna, otherwise I'm not gonna be cool. See, that's a big deal, and I think that we're gonna see, if that holds true, and you're correct, I think we're gonna see the $22,000 one, which is the Lowrider ST, and we're gonna see one where it's like the Sportster S for like 10 grand with just a bat wing.
Do you think that Indian is gonna try to get in on that?
Indian would have to, the Indian's got some work to do because the Club Dyna is so different in structure from what the Scouts currently are.
Yeah.
So they would probably need to think long and hard about that one. I think the next company that's perhaps most ready to make one is Yamaha with their the Star Bolt.
Yeah.
That's because it's a Sportster.
Rebel 1100 Club Dyna.
You could see that too. Yeah, I forgot about the Rebel 1100.
I mean, it kind of does. Don't they sell one with a tiny bat wing?
They are now.
Yeah.
But it's like they don't have the like rake and they don't have the.
Yeah, it's not quite the same.
But they could definitely make one. And Honda still, for the love of God, makes the Rune. I don't understand
really?
why.
Brand new?
or not the Rune,
The Valkyrie?
The Fury, the chopper. You can still go buy a Fury for some reason. So I could see Honda making that because apparently they still do some fun stuff every now and again.
Every now and then. I've heard rumors that, I think it was the Fury or the Rune or one of these bikes, that Honda made them literally at a loss. It used to, I think it cost them $100,000 per unit to create, and they sold them for 25. And they wrote off the 75 difference as marketing expense because they knew it was going to get a bunch of headlines.
That sounds like the Rune to me, because
the
Rune ran
yeah.
for a year.
Yeah.
And then they were like, we can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's the kind of rumor of it. They just did it as a marketing exercise because Honda's Honda. And they're like, yeah, we can build a bike for giggles to get headlines.
I really hope, that's one thing that I want to see in the next few years, is I want to see motorcycle companies take risks again.
Yes.
They have been
This is the final frontier. This is, I mean, this is really the last hurrah for the internal combustion engine. Things seems to be coming to an end point, you know? So it's like, fucking man, just do whatever, you know?
Go have fun.
Take fun.
All, like 100 years worth of knowledge and just make something cool with it.
Yeah.
Who knows? See what sticks.
Yeah. Maybe there's a whole new category we don't even know of yet.
Nuclear-powered submarine motorcycle.
I was gonna say, I don't know, Honda Navi adventure bikes. The Navi. Anyways, guys, that's our predictions for the next kind of 10 years of motorcycling. What do you think? Let us know down below. Do you think Scramblers are dead? What do you think's gonna come next? And yeah, we'll catch you in the next one. See you later. All right, look, you don't have to lie to me. If you had time for one Yammanu video all the way to the end, you probably have time for another one. You should probably just click this link and watch the video right over here. I promise it's gonna be good. You won't regret it. Seriously, you should just click it. I'm sure it's good. We only make good stuff around here. You should just watch it. Why are you still here?